So what I was going to say, for anyone listening, I mean, one of the dominant reasons we built Probate Plus was this conversation. So if you've let 12 or 18 or 24 months go by and you have not been following up with your leads the way we're talking about, Probate Plus is the easy button. So rather than going through and making 1,234 phone calls, you can press the easy button and get that list down to the ones that still have real estate that has not transferred title. And the whole point of that is to save you money by saving you time and marketing costs and really target your effort. So if you've got a 12-month-old list, you can, right from in the system, all you have to do is hit the Probate Plus button. It'll take you to an order form. You run it, and we'll show you exactly which ones have real estate, how much it's worth, if it's sold, if it's been on MLS, if it's currently on MLS. All that information is right at your fingertips now. And it's mainly to extract, everything we add to our system is to help you save time and money and extract as much value as you can out of it and get the highest return on investment. So if anyone's listening and they're like, man, I wish I was doing what she's doing, you now have an easy button. It's way easier than doing it manually. You can cut your work by, 80%, and just focus on the 20% that still need your help. Welcome everybody to All the Leads Mastermind. Today is Thursday, August 13th, 2020, and this is Mastermind call number 291. We've got a couple of people in the queue. If you have a question, please press *6 and then 1. We actually have several people in the queue. We usually have time to get to everybody. We try to keep these calls to an hour, but if you've got a question you're going to participate today, please jump in the queue so we can make sure we get to you. All right, first off, we have, I don't see the number, but it looks like this is Mr. Forsyth, number ending in 0883.
Mr. Forsyth.
Yes, hey, Tad and Bruce, how are y'all today?
Doing good.
Good. I bet I know the question you're gonna ask.
Well, you ask it for me then, Bruce.
No, go ahead.
Answer it. Answer it for me. Yeah, Bruce and I were talking yesterday, Chad, or the day before, maybe. Let me turn the radio down. And I gave him some features, that probably work out with Probate Plus. I can't find the daggum feature request place on the website.
Okay, so when you're in My Probate Leads, when you're in, so you go into your list view, then you click into the lead view.
Right.
In the top right where the Probate Plus summary information is, if you look straight across from that, you'll see two buttons, one for feature requests and one for bug reporting. We actually built it in, so when you're looking at any particular lead, that both buttons are always right there in front of you in case you find a problem or think of a great
I'm in the lead detail, as I call it.
Right.
So
you click on the personal representative's name.
Yeah.
And then that opens the lead detail, and you'll see the Probate Plus summary.
Right.
And then to the right of that, you should see two buttons. One is feature request. The other is a bug report.
Okay. Somehow I just missed that then. But that's not unusual for me, is it?
You're a good tester. You're low maintenance.
I try to be. Yeah.
What else you have to share with us, Jim? Tell us a success story. I know you have them.
Well, my call center, brought me 3 leads last Friday, and working with Karen down in Mobile and Baldwin counties. We're running those 3 leads right now, and one I've never even one's a timber ground. I've never run across that one before.
Nice. Those are good investments. If you find the right investor, timber guys oftentimes have cash, and they'll pay cash for the land because they get a principal return as soon as they cut it. So within 6 months you can have a full principal return and then hold the land they just land bank it. So go around saw shops, call around to the saw shops and wherever they sell off-road diesel, and you can find these guys. They look like they don't have a damn dime to their name, but they can. Some of those Sawmill guys can write $1 million check and never bat an eye.
All right. Well, this particular case is up in a county near Montgomery, and so I've referred it out and have one of the agents of our company up there, working on it for me. And then had another lady looking for residential investment, so got Karen working with her, and then another guy we're trying to get rolling. So it was a good day last Friday.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
Working on those. Yep, that's about it right now.
Well, thanks for sharing, Jim. If you don't find those buttons, just you can reach out to our support team. We'll help. We'll email you the links.
All right, I'll do it, man.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right,
thanks, Jim.
You guys have a great day. Thanks, Bruce.
You too. Okay, next up we have Aline, ending in 4800. You're on the air.
Hello, thank you. Hi, guys.
How are you today?
What's happening?
Hi there. Yes, I have two questions. I didn't hear that, Bruce. Sorry. What was that?
No, go right ahead. I just said what's happening.
Right.
Go with your questions.
Okay, all right, sure. Thank you. So, two things. First, I just want to, make a quick comment. I actually, in a county that has not, we haven't opened up since March, since the pandemic, and basically almost every county in my state hasn't opened up. So I've been working historical leads since March, and keep going back to them and then narrowing them down. And obviously just getting a little bit like, oh gosh, what am I, like, squeezing juice out of an orange that's like almost nearly gone. And what I just want to comment about is that I went all the way back to November and actually got a lead from somebody that has been, dealing with a sister that they can't get out of the house. And they're in depositions and all of this back and forth. And it's just interesting to see that even though like historical leads really work, and even though there's nothing right now that's new, just being able to go back and keeping really good notes and going back to people, that there's actually stuff there. So now I have this, potential lead of something that, could work out really well. So I just wanted to mention that about, historical leads.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. So that's something that we talk about one-on-one with a lot of subscribers. They have that question, well, why would I buy the old leads? And I encourage everybody, especially if you have leads you haven't followed up with in a while, think about it. The ones who haven't found help, it's probably because they didn't need it, or it's probably because they put their head in the sand and they just don't want to deal with this. They're acting like it's not happening even though they initiated it, or they got to a point where they got stuck and did that, and that's what we call the probate quicksand. Or there's some sort of conflict and they've gotten emotionally exhausted and just said to hell with it, and they've just kind of let go. But the ones who have waited, 6, 12, 18 months and they still haven't found a solution, they need our help more than anyone. They're the most likely ones to convert because they're already exhausted. So they're going to be like, oh my God. And those are the ones, like, a lot of times these are surviving spouses or big families. And a lot of times you'll hear them call you a godsend or say that you were an answer to their prayers. Literally. I've heard that so many times. David Pinnell shared an audio clip with us about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was this exact situation. The lady struggled with her husband's estate for like 8 months and didn't make any headway. David came in a matter of days, whipped the strategy together, deployed, and she was just like, she was completely relieved of her biggest problem. And she called and left him a voicemail and said, you were sent to me by God. You're an answered prayer. And so they convert extremely easy because they've already worn themselves down. So if you're not working your old leads, like, thanks for bringing this up. But for anyone who's not listening or who is listening and not working your old leads, I guarantee you're leaving big money on the table. And we're so conditioned to work the fresh leads, get to them fast, move through them quickly, go to the next one. It's a numbers game in almost every part of real estate. This list is so much different. It almost becomes more valuable by the day up until about the 2-year mark. So thank you for sharing
I totally agree, because I think we call them the historical leads or the back leads. It's about the follow-up, because I did that too, where I was just going to the fresh leads, going to the new leads. But going back also means the following up. And I'd say like 80% of anything that has been business that's moved forward has purely been because of my follow-up. And,
that's great.
and aside from that, as I'm going back to the ones that are tagged, that I've tagged not selling, because they may have not been selling 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago, but that could be different now. So that's really, I think, super valuable.
And hey, Aline, tell us how often you call. Go ahead, Shed.
I'm sorry, how often I call? Which one?
Tell us how often you call leads. These probate leads.
Oh, I call leads every day.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you mean?
Yep.
90.
Yes, that's what I mean.
An hour and a half every day.
And I know that.
Yep, yeah. You do, because I report to you. Yeah, 90 minutes a day.
So what I was going to say, for anyone listening, I mean, one of the dominant reasons we built Probate Plus was this conversation. So if you've let 12 or 18 or 24 months go by and you have not been following up with your leads the way we're talking about, Probate Plus is the easy button. So rather than going through and making 1,234 phone calls, you can press the easy button and get that list down to the ones that still have real estate that has not transferred title. And the whole point of that is to save you money by saving you time and marketing costs and really target your efforts. So if you've got a 12-month-old list, you can, right from in the system, all you have to do is hit the Probate Plus button. It'll take you to an order form. You run it, and we'll show you exactly which ones have real estate, how much it's worth, if it's sold, if it's been on MLS, if it's currently on MLS. All that information is right at your fingertips now. And it's mainly to extract, everything we add to our system is to help you save time and money and extract as much value as you can out of it and get the highest return on investment. So if anyone's listening and they're like, man, I wish I was doing what she's doing, you now have an easy button. It's way easier than doing it manually. You can cut your work by, 80%, and just focus on the 20% that still need your help.
Great. So just quickly, can I ask, I had just a second question. Do I have a minute to ask that?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, great. So I'm actually also in the process right now of being fortunate to work with my brother-in-law, and he's doing ISA. He's also calling leads with me. And one of the thoughts that he had come up with, which I thought was really awesome, and I wanted to, kind of get some feedback on it, was, offering people an incentive to do something now, right? So a lot of, even some people that are not ready and say, I'm not ready right now, I need a little bit more time. And a lot of that has to do with the things that they're weighed down with, whether it's, having to go through the house or cleaning out or anything related to that, is coming up with an incentive that helps them do something now, whether it's like, right now, and I don't know, maybe this is too gimmicky, but saying, we have a, we want to offer you, a storage unit, a month free storage unit, because we really get the value of being able to act now and do things in a timely manner because you're going to end up winning at the end. Something along that line. Does something like that come across like too gimmicky, or is that something that you think could be
I think it's a good idea, and it really depends on what you're using as the carrot. The storage, like climate controlled storage, I think that's a great carrot. Another one that I suggest anytime somebody has an appraisal license, I'm like, dude, we've got to get this in your letter.
Oh, yeah.
Like every letter you send should offer them a free appraisal on the real property. because yes, it takes up some of their time, but they like it's the low cost, no cost, but extremely high perceived value. So anytime somebody has an appraisal license, I tell them to work it into their marketing because they can offer something free to get the family to take action. Other incentives at like low cost, no cost, where you get the high perceived value. You've probably heard us in the last couple of weeks talking a lot about no trespassing posting. So part of your service, it doesn't have to be anything you pay for, but you can, go to the hardware store and buy a stack of no trespassing signs, go to your state website, print off the statute for trespassing, and as an offer in every letter you send, every phone call you make is, here we have a service checklist. One of the first two things on our service checklist, because most families don't realize the liability they have, is to secure the real properties. We do that in one of two ways. We make sure you have the proper insurance, and we make sure that the property, if vacant, is properly posted. So that's another example of something you could do that wouldn't cost you a lot of money, but it's going to have a very high perceived value, and it gives you a reason to get there in person, right?
Yeah.
So
that's great.
I tend to motivate people out of, and metaphorically I say it's the probate quicksand. And the way I see it is I'm reaching, a hand down, like I'm throwing down the rope to help them out of their situation. Just kind of based on my personality and understanding of psychology, I find a stick to work better, but I'll motivate them with the stick and then show them why it's a carrot, if that makes sense. So I will stir up the pain of financial loss or liability, what they're costing the estate by doing nothing. Their inactivity has a dollar value, and it's a negative dollar value in every instance I've ever worked with. So a lot of times I'll stir up that pain and that negative emotion, and then I'll be like, but it's really simple. If you just do this, this, and this, and actually I'll do it for you, then you get the carrot. And so I motivate a little bit differently. I like to stir up the pain because it breaks people out of their behavior patterns, and it's hard to get away. It's hard to, when I say, can you help me understand why you think it's a good thing for the estate to pay an extra $1,500 in monthly carrying costs just because you feel uncomfortable right now? Can you help me understand that? Well, what are you going to say to that? Like, so I trap them, but then I show them all the benefits and how using our service and doing what's in their best interest, I'm motivating them to do what's in their best interest. I do it a little bit differently. So I like your idea, and I think it's probably a better fit for your personality than mine. But I would just say, it's as long as your carrot isn't something gimmicky like, get a free refrigerator magnet for calling today.
Of course not.
Yeah, like the real value piece, I think, is a great idea.
All right. Okay, cool. Great.
Bruce, anything you want to add on that?
No, I thought that was perfect. I just learned something.
Cool. Well, Aline, thanks for being here. You're a frequent contributor. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Ted. Appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Next up, we have phone number ending in 6501. Ron, you're on the radio.
Hey, guys. Can you hear me?
We can hear you well.
Okay, perfect. I'm brand new to all this, so I didn't really know what kind of a question to ask. I'm just brand new to it, and I think I have an appointment set up for a phone consultation on the 17th.
Well, it sounds like you're doing okay to be brand new.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I've done a few deals with probate, but I had no experience otherwise with it. So I just started just listening and just see what everybody was talking about. So it sounds like there's a lot of different avenues you can go with all this, right?
Lots of variables, lots of opportunity. We work with these folks as sellers. We work with them as buyers. We work with them as lenders. If you're asking good enough questions and you're clear on all the value that you can potentially provide, you'll find, for example, like we teach, like in Probate Mastery, I teach people, get the listing or buy the house. At the closing table, get a commitment from them to retain the generational wealth, and turn them, either get them over to a registered investment advisor and get a referral in exchange, or get them over to your attorney and make them a private lender, and then take that private money loan to your investor to buy the next probate house, and then just keep repeating the cycle. And there's, you know, the average inheritance in the United States is 177,000. So you know, these folks are well capitalized, and what do Americans do when you give them money? They spend it. They typically don't invest it. A very small percentage of them invest it. So if we can be leaders instead of salespeople, and we can show them ways to invest and not only retain but grow generational wealth, pay for college, pay for their own long-term care plans, then we can make a massive difference. So just as you get into this, just always be thinking from their position. What could I possibly do? What problems could they possibly have, and what solutions can I bring to them? And how can obviously we're in business. For the value we provide, how do we benefit? How are we compensated? And you'll find hundreds of ways to help and hundreds of ways to get paid.
Right. Okay. So I guess the biggest question I had with all of this was, what's the typical style of house that goes into probate? I mean, are they usually like total remodels, or can it just be anything?
It's market to market. So I'm in Roanoke, Virginia. So we're a railroad town. So most of our housing was built, you know, turn of the century to mid-century. So for me, a typical probate deal is a brick ranch built between 1940 and 1970. It is like meticulously maintained on the outside. It's spick and span clean on the inside, but it has the 1952, you know, the General Electric, you know, range that you saw in the Sears catalog in the mid-century. Like, it still works, but a buyer doesn't want it, right? So they typically, they'll have some deferred maintenance, some functional obsolescence, but they're structurally sound and taken care of. They just need cosmetic rehab. So landlords love these. In my market, I would say 95% of my inventory was offloaded within a week at 80 to 90 cents on the dollar to landlords, or first-time home buyers who had saved up to do their own renovation. But in other markets, like in coastal markets especially, you'll have brand new condos. You have patio homes. You know, I mean, you never know. Like with Probate Plus, you know, that shows us everything that they own, even if it's not in their name. If I can tie it back to them through a trust or an entity, it's amazing what some people own. Like Jim Forsythe said in the beginning, he found timberland. Well, that can be extremely lucrative. We find hotels, trailer parks, timberland. One of them had like someone owned a bunch of swampland. Like the actual land type was swampland in Florida. But I mean, but the most common house you're going to get will be something that hasn't been updated, that needs a cosmetic rehab, and you can quickly sell it off at 80 to 90 cents on a dollar to an investor, or you can put a little bit of light rehab into it and sell it at retail.
Okay. All right. So, yeah, to be clear, so I am a real estate agent. So, yeah, I was looking for, obviously, number one, listing opportunities, and, you know, maybe I can get hooked up with some more investors along the way as well.
You hang out here long enough, you'll be an investor.
Yeah. No, I know. I had, but, yeah, my first investment property I bought was 2008, and it was a bank property, and then I bought one that was probate, right? So I've done a few of them, but I'm not too knowledgeable on the whole topic, so that's why I thought it was a good opportunity. So, I mean, I guess if I do it for a year, like I want to do it for an entire year just to see what the outcome would be. But like, how many listings do you think I would take? They said that, I think Natalie told me that it was 18 leads was the average per month I was going to be getting. So, what do you think?
So,
what do you think
the small markets are interesting. Like, those smaller markets, you know, your conversion rate's going to be crazy high compared to other people that get 300 leads a month, because you basically have no competition at all. I mean, we have folks in markets that are getting 15 to 25 leads a month that are doing 2 to 3 deals a month. So as a percentage, you're converting at a very high rate. But what you need to focus on, and with such a small list, really focus on building your referral network. because a lot of families, the reason your lead counts are so low is because so many people in your area, and I don't even know where you are yet, but
Livingston County, Michigan, like north of Ann Arbor. It's kind of rural, you know, a lot of woods. Okay.
Right, and you don't have there's not a whole lot of wealth, so most people are coming in under the small estate exemption. They don't require, the estate doesn't require probate, right?
Right.
So those people still have the same problems. The ones that don't go through probate because they have a trust, they're usually on the wealthy end of the spectrum, or the ones who don't go through probate because they qualified for the small estate exemption on the other end of the spectrum. Think about the human variables of when a family member passes away. They still have to do the same things. Like one has neither of those examples have court oversight, but they still have the same responsibilities and accountability as everyone else in probate. So it's important that you really build your referral network. And I mean, estate planning attorneys, elder care attorneys, registered investment advisors, nursing home employees, senior moving companies, anyone who has contact with families in that the late stage of life or the early stage of the transition. They should understand that Ron has a team right here in town that can handle everything end to end. One phone call, it's taken care of. And they should all know what you're capable of. So really focus on building those organic relationships in the communities. In the small communities, it makes a huge difference. And you can connect with the guy if you haven't already. I don't know if he's on this call, but Roger Alisi is in Fayetteville, Arkansas, a rural market. He gets about 30 leads a month. He pulls tons of opportunity out of this list because he approaches it the way we're talking about. He makes it, and it's such a small list. He can pretty much considers every single person that will pick up the phone and talk to him. They get added to his sphere of influence database, and he just keeps in touch with them until they do need help. And he's made. I mean, he really built his business on this since we met him. It's been 4 or 5 years ago. So a lot of opportunity in the smaller markets. It's just, you'll find as much opportunity from the referral network as you do from the leads. You should still always do them both in tandem because you never know where it's going to come from. And with 18 leads, your campaign cost is ridiculously low. So certainly do that, but really get out there and put a block on the calendar. Like every Wednesday from 1 to 5, all I do is build my referral network and just make sure it happens systematically.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you, Ron.
Yeah, I look forward to talking to you guys on the 17th.
Thanks, Ron.
All right.
Thanks a lot.
Can't wait. Win of the week coming up. All right. Next up, number ending in 8213, Salvatore.
Hey, guys. This is Fed. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks. So I wanted to start off by thanking Bruce for the coaching call and kind of getting me back on track. So thank you. Thank you.
Did he use a carrot? Did he use a carrot or a stick?
Both. It depends. Okay, so that's that. And then I wanted to piggyback on what Chad said about the older leads. So I signed up back in April, never having done anything with probate, or at least I did one probate 2 years ago, but that was about it, so zero experience. And I had call reluctancy. Had my call with, ever since April, had my call with Bruce last week, finally started picking up the phone. Been doing about 30 to 40 contacts per day, slowly getting better, listening to the role plays, and seeing where I can pick up. I look forward to the next role play. I had some people yell at me yesterday, which is cool, whatever, no biggie. Some people not listening at all. Like every time I spoke, they just said, we got it handled, just would not let me speak. I'm sure maybe I just need to ask better questions, so I'm going to keep listening to some of the role plays. Question for you guys. I have two. One is, how do you think I can apply what we use in probate for expireds? So out of the calls that I've been doing, even though I haven't been able to, some people already have it handled, because I'm calling older leads because I had call reluctancy, fear of calling. So essentially my leads that I've been paying for turned into old leads. The conversations went well, and I referred 2 clients to attorneys, then got one contractor, painter, all that stuff. So I've been referring business out. So in the end, it wasn't a loss. I'm just trying to figure out, since I also call expireds, what do you guys suggest the approach be for that?
What's your price point target for your expired prospecting?
I mean, the last expired came out to $5 million, but I call anything. I don't really care about price point. It's more about helping people. So I've done 300,000, I've done 600,000, I've done up to 10 million.
Okay. So you ask how what we teach applies in that situation. So like if you have that kind of inventory in your market, my suggestion would be dig in, do your research, look at everything, obviously look at the MLS listing, find out as much as you can about that property, look at the history of it. And then same thing, like offer options and bring a team to the table. Like imagine if you offer a free pre-appraisal because you know the asset was overpriced. So you negotiate with an appraiser to give you a bulk rate and prepay him for 10 appraisals at a time or 50 at a time, whatever it is. So go to the appraiser and say, I know your rate's 200. How about, because it's COVID, I'm going to prepay you for 10 appraisals, and then you'll get, or your rate's 400. I'll prepay you for 10 of them at 200. So you just added the appraiser to your team. Then you go to your photographer and you do the same thing. You shoot a house for 200. I'll prepay you for the next 10 right now, a check today. And you've got to make sure you can trust your partners and that they're not going to be the kind of guys that take the money and never show up. And your recourse is small claims court if you want to hassle with it. But assuming you have the right partners and the right people, the relationships already, go prepay people to give you discounts so you can bring more value than anyone else. And when you approach the expired, you say, listen, I looked at your photography, I looked at your aerials, I looked at what you didn't have. I'm calling because I've already laid out a strategy for how you guys can get this home sold. And obviously that wouldn't be the very beginning of the conversation, but the idea is the same. You give them options and you say, would you guys, do you guys really want to know what the house is worth? Because I'll pay for the appraisal, but I need a commitment from you that you'll trust my pricing strategy and we can fairly price this home to find a buyer. Because and trust me, I am not going to take this listing in this market because I don't want to watch you catch a falling knife in 6 months. So if you'd like to take advantage of the rally that we're in right now before we deal with the real damage to our economy, then here's how I'll position you. But I need a commitment from you that you can trust my price strategy. We're going to give you an appraisal. We're going to give you the photography. We're going to give you the virtual tour. And you can do the same thing. Build the team around you, negotiate so you have leverage, and then take them an offer, give them options to choose from, and just more value than they can possibly imagine or hear from anyone else. And I know Bruce is bursting. He has to have ideas here.
And I don't know if we talked about this last week or not, but I kind of like to look at calls in stages. And the stages that I look at in a call, and if you get these stages down, you'll be pretty well. I cut my teeth on prospecting using an old acronym called LP Mama, and it doesn't mean that you have to follow the exact formula. You need to be flexible and fluid with this, but for the most part, people want to know in your intro pretty quickly who you are, how you got their information, why you're calling. We've talked about that on multiple occasions. My particular style and the style I usually coach people to move into second after the intro is an information gathering phase where you really go in, you start asking good questions that keep them from, they're thinking about answering your question, instead of thinking about how am I going to get this jerk off the phone. All right, they're thinking about answering your question. Why do you think your home didn't sell? Okay, are you guys thinking about keeping your house, or are you guys thinking about putting it back on the market at some point? Just things like this where you start to gather information, and I encourage a lot of people not to make it their priority to immediately close for an appointment if they're still building rapport. And the best way to build rapport is by asking good questions that cause that person to communicate with you. The more they talk, the more they like you. So if you have good questions that get them communicating and kind of in that place where they're answering questions, you'll be good. Now what I want to do after that info stage of the conversation where, you know, it might last 3 minutes, it might last 20, depends on you, depends on how receptive the person is. I want to go into what we call a reality check. Okay, and that reality check, you begin to feed that information back to them. You don't want to say, hey, you said that your agent sucked. You said that the house was a mess. You said that the gutters were falling off. Okay, those are 3 things that we're going to focus on because those are you uncovered that those as pain points. So you don't want to just focus all on the pain, but you want to mix in a really heavy dose of pain and let them understand that what they just told you, they might be ignoring it in their real world, but what they just told you is there's lots of pain, there was lots of problems. And then you simply end by saying, hey, you know, based on these things, I'd like to offer you a solution. Do you mind if I make a quick proposal? Okay, it could be with expireds, it could be with for sale by owners, it could be with probate. I mean, this kind of formula for a call works all over the place. So you move into your solution. You mind if I offer you a proposal? If they've talked with you for 5 to 20 minutes, they're not going to say no. They are not going to say no, and then I simply end after I've proposed. I typically propose an appointment. After I've proposed that appointment, my technique is low pressure sale. I'll say, and look, I'm not going to come out there and try to force you into signing paperwork with me. I know that if I can give you enough value, then obviously you would include me in the conversation when it is time to list, right? Mm-hmm. So I want a commitment that I'm at least included in that conversation later. So okay. Some people go a little bit harder, and that's perfectly fine. But if you can get that commitment that at least they'll include you in the conversation, that you're coming out there to provide value, they're not going to shut you down.
I mean, makes sense to me. Yesterday with a call, I was able to keep this girl on the phone, and it turned into, you know, initially she said, we have it all handled. And, you know, by digging deeper and deeper, it turned out that she needed a roofer, a painter, someone for landscaping, an attorney. So that turned into the call ended with, you know, insurance specialist. Fortunately, I listened to like a ton of your role plays right before making the calls, and it turned into about 5 or 6 referrals right after. So she called me this morning saying, hey, thank you, I've been looking for all this. So that's why I really appreciate what you guys do.
I want to interject. You need to freeze that in the amber and use it every time you hear that again. And when someone says, oh, we've got it handled, be like, that's the same thing Sally said. And don't say a damn word. Silence. And they're going to be like, and what Bruce is teaching you, it will break the circuitry, and they've got this pattern that they've built in their nervous system, and you basically short circuit that, and they're like, what the hell? Who is Sally? Now who's in control of the conversation? So that's all you need. I love that you said that.
Thank you.
You interrupt that circuit, and then you say, you know what, I'm glad you asked. Sally was someone that I helped just a week ago. I'll actually send you, I've got an email that she sent me thanking me for having this exact conversation. So what Sally said was exactly what you said. Nope, Fed, we've got it handled. We don't need any help. 10 minutes later, I had laid out a 6-week plan to completely change the value of her home, and she made $65,000 because she was willing to talk to me. Do you really need to get off the phone, or do you have a couple minutes? and then silence.
I love that,
and
that was the main
use silence
objection.
as your leverage. So you need to get this lady to send you an email or make a video for you. Just say, and it's going to be feel, felt, found. So this is how I understand how you feel. Others have felt that way. What they found was they didn't quite understand why we were calling, and we actually made a massive difference in the estate, mainly in the form of money, but also we reduced stress. But if you have something like that you can put on your website that you can email to people, you have the story, but you need to lock this in the amber and remember it forever, because this is your entry point. Every time somebody tries to shut you down because of their patterns, you just break the pattern with a story, and that you'll get through to most of them. And every time you you'll build a quiver full of these arrows. Like, you'll have lots of stories. And for anyone listening, if you don't already have a story, just say something like, the famous words of my best clients, and then be completely quiet. And it's just like Bruce was saying, like, they go back on their heels and they're like, what? Who is this person, and who would say something like that? What does he mean? So you've got their gears turning instead of just this pattern of almost apathy. It's like, oh, I can't wait to get this guy off the phone. He's just like the rest of them. Right? So really contemplate that today. Lock in that story and how you're going to use it, and you'll defeat the objections with the successful defeat of the one you just ran toward the obstacle and you broke through it. Now use that as a tool to break through the future obstacles.
Deal. I'm on it. Do you have time for last question about practices?
Real quick, yes.
Up to you guys. I don't know how. Okay. So best practices to stay efficient. So what I'm doing right now when I'm making my calls is that I have a sheet of paper in front of me and I write down the PR and the deceased, which is also on the screen in front of me. But the reason why I write it on a piece of paper is so that I can write notes down about what happened on the call. Now, when you think about it, for example, with expireds, before I got into probate, people were telling me, okay, get a dialer, sometimes even a triple dialer. I always stayed at a single, and just knock all the calls out at the beginning first, then take notes. But sometimes I feel like in this situation, because we really want to listen to what's going on and then kind of create the solution, I think I don't know, maybe I'm being wrong, but it's
a good question, and I'm going to interrupt you because we've got six or seven in the queue. So I had the same struggle early in my career. I was selling multi-million-dollar real estate to people I'd never met, and I usually didn't meet them for weeks or months until they came on their next ski vacation. So I wanted to know their kids' names. I wanted to know I wanted to remember all these things. So it was so important to me that I did a thorough job, and that it showed that I cared about them, that I spent all this time trying to take notes. And the result was me being marble mouth on the phone. Like, I was accessing a different part of my brain. I wasn't in my prefrontal cortex where I was supposed to be in a conversation. I was in the logical part of my brain taking notes and making sure that I could read what I was writing. So when it came time for me to ask a quality question, I was back on my heels, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay. When will you guys be back up again? And I didn't seem like I wasn't professional. When I threw the damn notebook in the trash and said, if you're a good professional, you'll remember what you talked about. And I focused 100%, like everything I could focus on that person and actually caring about remembering and building a real relationship with them. Then when I hung the phone up, I would take really good notes. I would say, here's what we talked about. What I learned from that is that I didn't have to have notes to remember about these people. You can ask me about clients I had in 2005. I can tell you their kids' names. And it was because I weaned myself off of the notebook when I was on the phone. When I'm on the phone, I'm on the phone. Right now I'm pacing around my office, walking around, because I want to give you my undivided attention. And that's oftentimes what I do. I think that's why I have that habit. I learned if I'm at my desk, I am distracted. So I negotiated with my employer to buy me all the way back in 2005. They're really expensive wireless headsets. so I could walk around the office. And it was mainly because I wanted to raise my level of customer experience. I wanted to do a better job for my clients or my potential clients, my prospects. So my advice to you is, if you're not already for probate, take the notes down in the option status tab in the lead detail view. You have an option status tab, so you put the result of the phone call, answered, talked to, whatever. You rate the lead, and then you put in your call notes, and then you move on. And it's there if you ever forget. But I think what you'll find is you'll remember far more of the important details on a real relationship basis than you are if you're trying to do two things at one time. The other thing, if you'd like to, another resource for this, go buy a copy of The One Thing by Gary Keller, and it will actually explain to you the neuroscience of why your habit is a bad habit. You absolutely cannot, I don't care who you are, physiologically, you cannot multitask. And that book it's a simple concept, but it's a 3 or 4 hour read. But if you haven't read The One Thing, go buy that book today and read it and break that habit, because it's not serving you.
Deal. No, appreciate it. Will do. And I did not know about the notes in the website next to the lead. I'll do that.
So
that'll be much more
efficient. In every lead, you'll see tabs at the bottom. The third one to the right, it says option status, and that's where you leave your notes and rate each lead.
Sounds good. Thank you so much,
All right.
guys. Really, really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, Fed.
Thanks.
Okay. Next up, number ending in 0402. You're live.
Hey, guys. This is Delario Bolton.
Hey, Delario.
First of all, let me just say I'm good. Thank you, Bruce, for all the calls and the great conversations we've had so far.
Oh, yeah, they've been good.
Very good. I set up a meeting to talk with you tomorrow, and I completely forgot about this call because some days I'm just not available at 12 o'clock, which is lunchtime, so my schedule's pretty busy. But here's the question that I have. And, Chad, I really wanted you to be a part of this call along with Bruce, and so I'm glad I got both of you guys on. So one of my business partners, his father is an attorney, and he basically manages a group of attorneys. Some of those attorneys are probate attorneys. And so my partner and I want to leverage his relationship with those probate attorneys and see if we could just work with them to collect all the leads that come through the office that they're willing to give us. So this week I found out that they're going to give us a shot. So they're going to give me a meeting to sit down with two attorneys. We're going to leverage that relationship with every other attorney that they know that's in the probate sphere, and I don't want to screw it up. So Bruce sent me an email that he used when he reached out to probate attorneys, but I just want to make sure when I go in and present the value that we bring to the attorneys, I want to make sure that I'm A1, top of the line, top of the list. I just want to give a good presentation of the value. And so I've gone over everything that you guys have discussed with us, but to say, we offer clean-out services. We offer construction services. You had mentioned earlier that we can help families as a lender, or we can keep people off their property by buying no trespassing signs. I want to know how to present to them the best case for what we do so that they're like, dang, I don't know how we can do business without it. And I was just afraid that if I went in without having this call with you guys, man, I could potentially mess something up, and this is a big opportunity.
Okay, I want to caution you on one thing. This is important, and it is big for you. You need to act like it's not, because don't make it bigger than it is, or you're going to go in there nervous and you're going to blow it. My suggestion to you, as long as this matches your personality, don't try to over-prepare and take a big PowerPoint presentation or anything. I'll point you back to, I think it was last week on the Mastermind call, I suggested to somebody to just open up Microsoft Excel. Column A, what problems could the family have? Column B, what solutions do I have? And just go down and completely exhaust yourself. Like, think of no matter how small it is, think of how, like, any problem that they could possibly have, and you may even add column B may be category. So you could have real estate problems, family, like social problems, financial problems, personal property problems, real property problems. Like, you may even categorize and have a third category so you can sort the list and more easily, show them. Because it's going to be a brainstorm, and I want you to do like a full-blown brain dump. What can I possibly think of, from safe deposit boxes to stock accounts to life insurance to broken down cars that are in other states at cousins' houses? Like, what possible problems could they have? And what this is going to do, it's going to force you to really, really draw out your service roadmap. Even if you don't have the experience of dealing with that problem, you're going to put yourself in a mindset where you are living through that solution. Because how else do you come up with a solution than thinking through it and imagining your way through it, right? And there's a bit of law of attraction here. Like, it's a way to gain experience that you don't yet have by being empathetic. That's one thing. I want you to do that, like, hopefully today. Like, if you feel motivated right now, sit down and do that. Turn everything off. No computer, no phone, nothing. Just you. And I'm proposing a spreadsheet. You could do it on a sheet of paper. But make sure you're not distracted. The other thing I'm going to give you, after 7 years of doing this, 2 mornings ago, I woke up at 5 a.m. and every morning, an idea hits me immediately. And I have a bad habit of running straight from my bedroom to my office to document it, because almost like a dream, it's fleeting, right? So I have all these little notes and things. 2 mornings ago, I was like, how have I never made a spreadsheet that explains what I teach in Mastery, like all of the team members, all the things those team members can do for you, and all of the ways you can find those team members. And I teach it in a mind map, and I teach it in PowerPoint slides, but I've never actually put it in like a summary sheet. And I started that. I have the team members and what they can do. I haven't finished sourcing everything, but I will drop that in the All the Leads Mastermind Facebook group, and Kat can link to it in the show notes. It's not anything I've circulated yet. It's not going to be pretty. It's just a spreadsheet. But that will help you wrap your head around who your team is. You could potentially, after doing these 2 exercises, you could potentially show up to this meeting with 2 pages, just 2 spreadsheets, and just say, you know what, guys, I'll answer any questions you have, but here's everything I can do. And you need to be confident, not nervous. That's why I'm saying make this smaller than you. Don't make it so big that it's intimidating. These attorneys are people. They're entrepreneurs. They're business owners. And they have solicitation laws that keep them from doing what you can do for them. So understand the value. The third thing is you need to get a real understanding of what value you bring to their office. So those first 2 things translate to an extreme amount of value for the attorney. Your number one purpose is to preserve equity for every estate that you have contact with. Your number 2 objective is to reduce stress for every estate you have contact with. Lock in those 2 things. It matters to the attorneys because they have a fiduciary responsibility to their clients, and they get paid more. If you make more money, they get more money. So you can help them solicit business to their firm, which they're not allowed to do directly. You are. You can help them. You can uphold the same standard of ethics that they do, and extend that fiduciary responsibility. The relationship. You can get cases closed faster, and you can ultimately make them more money, and more than one way. They'll net more per deal, and they'll have the deals done more quickly, so they can handle a higher caseload.
Okay, how the last 2? You said I can help solicit business for the firm. I can close something faster. I don't understand, and that's another thing that I have that may be good for the call tomorrow, Bruce. I don't understand what I can do faster. How does that benefit them? I guess I don't have a clear understanding. So statistically,
I know I'm interrupting you. We're close to the end of the call, and we still have 5 people in the queue, so pardon my interruptions. Right. But the statistically, for the middle class, which is most people who go through probate are middle class Americans. The lower class doesn't. They're exempt, and the upper class oftentimes have proper estate planning in place. So we're usually dealing with the middle class. In the United States, the middle class holds 50 to 80% of their total net worth in their primary residence. So those on the upper end of the scale, it's probably going to be closer to 50%. Those on the lower end of the middle class scale, it's 80%. What this means, and according to the Federal Reserve study, the last one done in 2018, the average senior citizen in the United States has $24,000 in liquidity. So the position they're in is they're asset rich and cash poor, and they've got to settle all these liabilities. So if you can help liquidate the real estate, then you provide cash to get all the other liabilities closed out more quickly. And if you can get that started today versus 2 months from now, then the probate can close 2 months earlier. You still have a 4-month waiting period for open period for creditors. So you're not going to close it quicker than the record speed. But most probates take 8 to 12 months, and it's not because they have to. It's because people are inefficient because they have to go fumble their way through it and figure it out. With you as a leader, not as a salesperson, not as a realtor, not as an investor, I lead these families through this process and act in their best interest first always. But as a leader, you can expedite the process, which helps liquidate funds to settle liabilities so the attorney can get to their job more quickly and they can move the process along. So just show them how you can maximize the equity and shorten the overall probate process while taking most, if not all, the stress away from the family. So that's what they want to hear. And no one else is coming in their office asking for that. The way that you're going to help them find a loophole in the direct solicitation law is you're going to sit down with them, and while you're there, you're going to ask them for something. Say, guys, listen, there's a lot that I can do for you. I need to ask for your help on one thing, and it can be one of you or all of you. I need a 30-minute brain dump. Everything that happens from the time somebody passes away until probate is completely closed out and you guys have you've exhausted all efforts to serve your client. Let's write this down and do it in a timeline or do it in a checklist. It doesn't matter. But capture every single thing. Everything that's legal, that's in their wheelhouse, gets colored red. Everything else can be black or green or whatever it is. That becomes your supplemental mail piece. So that checklist has their information. The firm information is at the bottom of the checklist. 20% of the probates filed nationwide are pro se, meaning they have no legal representation. Almost 100% of them end up with legal representation because they create a mess they don't have the skills to get out of. So they have, every time you send letters, you're not asking them to pay for your marketing. You're asking them to provide some value by giving you a resource that would truly be valuable to the prospect. And then if that prospect doesn't have an attorney, they're going to get to the bottom of the list and their eye is going to go right to the firm's information. So you're giving them a legal way to market to each and every single person in probate. And you're also providing real value to the consumer because they have a useful checklist that their attorney probably didn't give them.
Right. Here's my question. So when I receive the leads from you guys, they always have attorney information. So if you sort by
the attorney column, I bet you'll find that about 20% of them do not.
Oh, okay, gotcha. I've never done that before.
So sort descending, and then look, you'll see 15 to 20% have no attorney information. It's not because we missed it. We're thorough. It's because they think they can do it on their own, and they learn. Usually a couple months in, they learn. And, the probate attorneys who pick up the pieces usually end up making more money because they have to spend a lot more time on the case. So it's good business for the attorneys. So those are some of the just value points. I know I threw a lot at you, but that's how I would approach the opportunity in front of you.
Okay. And hey, Bruce, I know I don't want to be selfish. There are other people waiting to talk. So, Bruce, we have a call set up tomorrow, I think at 9:30. So if you can give me about 4 hours of your time, I think we can really knock this thing.
I'll give you 3 hours and 50 minutes. Nothing more.
But, hey, thank you so much, Chad. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to let everybody else get in. But I look forward to catching up tomorrow and finishing this out and being prepared for next week.
All right. Go get it, man. Thanks a lot.
Okay. Thanks so much, Chad. Bye-bye.
All right, guys, we are at the top of the hour. We still have 4 in the queue. So, Bruce, are you okay to go in a few minutes?
I'm good. Yep.
Okay. All right. Next up, we have our longtime contributor, Joyce, 6248. You're live.
Joyce.
Good morning. I appreciate you guys, and I have a couple of quick questions. Chad, can I, when I'm making my calls, may I tell people that I know that they have 5 more properties?
I wouldn't suggest it because people, they perceive that as an invasion of privacy. So still feel your way through, and just for context so everybody else understands, with Probate Plus, we know exactly what they own, how much it's worth, where it's at, who, like, you know, the title history was. Like, we have a lot of information. But what I learned, I kind of learned this from watching the predictive analytics companies go through class action lawsuits. When you expose everything you know about it before you have rapport with the family, they feel like there's a violation of trust and privacy. So you're better off to use that to target your effort, but don't try to use it and say, oh, well, I noticed you have 5 properties. How can I help with that? They're going to be like, how the hell does she know this? And they feel violated. So I would recommend continue through your conversation organically and let the conversation validate what you're looking at on the screen and be like, oh, okay. And is there just the one property or are there others? Well, you know the answer. It's rhetorical. But that let them say, oh no, actually there's 4 other properties. Oh, okay, great. Well, can you verify can I get the addresses on those? And just let it happen organically and verify what you already know so you don't break rapport and make them feel violated.
Thank you. Second quick question. If I am reaching a no, my attorney has taken care of everything, can I approach them with the mortgage that they may have on the property can be decreased effectively with the good interest rate that we have right now?
Well, they're not going to refinance a property that belongs to a deceased person.
So even though they have full authority, they can't do that?
Well, they would have to transfer title, and you know, if they intended to buy it from the estate, if one family member was buying the house to buy the others out, then that would be a value point. But in most scenarios, it wouldn't be.
I see. Okay, just looking for more things to say.
Yeah.
So if they were,
right.
Chad, really fast, Joyce, if they hit you with that, obviously there are some ways to get around. We've got everything taken care of, or our attorney is taking care of it. There are other ways, but I look at that as kind of permission to go in the real estate route a lot of times in my conversation. So what you might mix in at some point is say, hey, you know, as you get further along in this, I understand your attorney's doing a great job. As you get further along, are you guys going to be keeping the house, or are you thinking about selling? Just ask. And it's not too salesy. It's just a question, and that'll reveal a lot of information for you.
My approach to that, Joyce, is a little more right-brained. So I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, well, listen, I'm glad you guys have representation. A lot of folks think they can do it on their own, so I'm glad you feel comfortable, and it's because you got the right help. Listen, one thing that we notice most attorneys miss, and trust me, like we consider them a member of our team, and we couldn't do what we do without them. But one thing I know, almost every law firm I know of misses this. The families usually have 50 to 80% of the value of the estate in real estate, and a lot of times the real estate is vacant. So if it's not properly posted, you could have issues that could go on for years, and if it's not properly insured, you could lose everything. So if you have 1 minute, I'd like to just make sure you guys are protected and that your attorney has covered this with you. Or you can do a more assumptive approach. That's more like, oh, okay, so your attorney helped you switch over insurances and secure all the property so you don't have any legal liability? And again, we're breaking the pattern, and we're getting their mind, they're going to their amygdala. They're going, oh my God, what's she talking about? What liability? I didn't know I had liabilities. There's something else. And they get into this stress state. And then you're like, and then you show them the solution. If you're going to stir up pain, you always have a solution. The solution is vacant property insurance and properly posting it with no trespassing and a statute. So there's lots of different approaches that we talk about on these calls. What Bruce said will absolutely work. What I said will absolutely work. It's whatever mood you're in or whatever feels most comfortable to you.
Perfect. Thank you both. I appreciate you.
Yep. Thanks, Joyce.
Thanks, Joyce.
All right. 3 more guys. Hang in. We still have 80 or so on the call. Phone number ending in 8985. You're live.
Yay, I feel like I won the lottery. This is Joy Baxter Downey. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fine. Okay, so here's the thing. I have met with 3 of 4 people, and so can I just rattle off my questions real quick, and then you just, on these 4 different appointments that I ran into, and just tell me what you would do differently.
Let's go one at a time so we don't get lost.
Okay.
If it's 4 different appointments.
Okay. The first one, I met with this lady, and she was married 40 years. She told me her husband died 4 months ago, and she knows that she has to sell, but she can't motivate herself to move. So I went through and I explained to her that what I could do is get the property listed, because she's in a hot area, so location-wise. And I said, but what we can do is say that you need 30 days to rent back so that you can figure out what you would like to do with your items, because she doesn't want to get rid of any of her stuff either. So then I also took her out and showed her examples of condos, because she can't take care of a yard. She's 75 years old. So anyway, I did all that. She canceled the next appointment I had to list with her, and she just said she's just too depressed. She can't think about this. So how do you get over somebody that
So this is exactly what I was talking about earlier. This is a surviving spouse and probate quicksand. And most folks can't close these, but those who really are serious about this and providing real value find these to be some of the easiest ones. I don't have time to share a story. I wish I could tell the story of Drusilla, but I had this exact scenario. She had gone 2 years, and when I actually showed up, her husband's water glass and slippers were still in his easy chair. Like the slippers were in front of the chair and his water glass was there. She was paralyzed. For 25 months, this lady had done nothing. Her leather couch is sitting in my office right now, because once the momentum started, I'm like, hey, don't donate that. I'll pay you for it. So I have a really nice leather couch that I'm looking at right now. But so the way I motivate it, the way I motivate these folks is, and as difficult as this might seem, do you believe it's in her best interest to go back into her comfort zone and sit in depression? Do you think there's any benefit to her there?
No, not at all, because she can't afford to stay there.
Candid communication is critical.
Well, I tried to be firm, but gentle.
It's not even firm. It's more candor. So tell me, what do you think? What do you think this looks and feels like in 3 months if you go back into your pattern of doing nothing? That's a hard question to receive, isn't it? The reason I'm saying it is because I really care. I know that I can make a huge difference. I know that I can help you get your. I know life is always going to be different. But I also know that I can help you make that as easy as possible. And I know how hard this is. I've built a team of people, so you can literally go on vacation. You can go somewhere, go visit a friend. When you come back, I'll make sure that I've gotten every single penny that I can possibly get out of the existing assets, that we get a senior moving company to move your stuff into climate-controlled storage, either a property manager to find you a suitable rental, or I'll help you go find a home that we can take the equity from this and put into a new home that does work for you, that you can take care of and be safe in and have a better state of mind. So you can fault me for it if you want, but I feel compelled. I feel an obligation to tell you what you're doing is not serving you, and what I'm trying to do will serve you. So if you could help me understand how you think it's in your best benefit for me to just let you continue doing what you've been doing for 4 months, I'm all ears. But otherwise, I'd like to get started helping you today. And I've had conversations that were that firm with very fragile, surviving widows, and it's amazing. I mean, it's like a damn Tony Robbins event. When they break through hard. Drusilla was 52 years old. She lost her husband young. In 3 days, she emptied, Bruce, this was in South Roanoke up on the hill behind the hospital. So Bruce used to work in this market. In 3 days, a 52-year-old woman who had done nothing, I laid out the plan, and she's like, and at the kitchen table, I could see the power building in this lady. And she clutched her hands, and then she gripped the side of the table, and then she released. And when she released, that was the breakthrough. And she's like, no, you know what, Chad? I have known that I have to deal with this. This is for me to deal with. If I want to be with my grandchildren in North Carolina, I have to do this. And I'm like, Drew, you don't have to. I'm telling you, I'll do all this for you. I just need your permission. She's like, no, it'll be done Monday morning. Get the photographer here. I'm like, Drew, how are you going to clean out a 3,400 square foot home in 3 days? I said it'll be ready on Monday morning, and it was. I went on Saturday morning to pick up the couch. Goodwill, Salvation Army, Habitat Restore, and about 15 people off of Craigslist were there. She literally sold or donated damn near everything in that house in 3 days. And when I came back to do photography on Monday, it was empty. And she had sat there depressed, like and like no lights on, depressed, sitting in the basement where her husband was found dead, and just did nothing. She just sat in her own sorrow. And I'll tell you, that was probably one of the, there's a lot of emotions in this for me. I'm really proud of what I do. That one I'm really proud of, because I saw Drew transform into a different person. She took the money from that house. She bought a beautiful new condo in Greensboro, North Carolina, and she today, I'm sure, is playing with her granddaughter on a daily basis. And yes, it's sometimes hard to push on these people, but if you don't, who's going to? If you don't, what do they feel like in 3 months?
Okay. Well, that I will definitely go back to her and raise some of those questions that you just articulated. All right. So on the second one that I went on, or yesterday, I took a telephone call because this was actually a referral to me. And so I offered a lot of value. She wanted to know what she told me. She said she's a class, an A personality type, and that she still works and she really doesn't need to sell her home. And then through the conversation and information gathering, I found out that, yes, she really does need to sell her home. But she told me she did over $100,000 in improvements and improved things after her husband died 6 years ago, so she over-improved and she doesn't think she's going to get the value of the property. But she also said she just refinanced, so she has a current appraisal at $540,000. So she wanted to know what I could sell it for. I said, well, if you have a current appraisal for $540,000, then it's going to be $540,000. She said, but I want to make more off it. And I said, that's not going to be possible. That's not going to be possible. You just had an appraisal done. This is what it's. I said, we could price it higher, but that doesn't mean it's going to sell for higher. And I went through and explained to her the differences between the seller's market versus the buyer's market. She says, everybody's telling me that I need to sell now, that if the
how much does she owe?
Different, $327.
Okay, so she has equity.
Right. And
so the way I would deal with this one.
Wait. She also told me that she has to net $225,000 in order for her to move, and that's not going to work. The numbers don't work.
Okay.
Because she's only going to net $185,000.
She's probably not going to net that much, because she's either going to find a realtor who will overprice it just to get a listing. The ones that don't sell, they list. She'll list it with them, and she'll pay property taxes, utilities, insurance, maintenance, and she will actually be reducing her net every day and I would do the math if I were you. Take it down to a daily bite-sized chunk. What is the carrying cost?
Okay.
So the jumbo loan market is shrinking. Whoever, she refinanced, she doesn't have a jumbo loan, but whoever's buying this house has to have a jumbo loan. Mortgage availability index is down 40%. I'm not saying jumbo loans can't be done, but they're extremely hard to find, and underwriting is strenuous. So the pool of buyers is smaller than, and it's getting smaller, by the way. There's a lot of turmoil in the back end of our credit markets where jumbo mortgages originate. So you need to show her the risk she's taking. What she's doing now is far more risky than selling the home and netting out what she can now, because the home is very likely to devalue. The expenses are guaranteed to continue. And every day that she wastes, figure out the dollar amount of that time wasted. So take the mortgage, take the insurance, take the utilities, any maintenance, anything she's doing, and figure it out. If she's spending $3,000 a month, then you say, listen, there's $100 a day. You just imagine waking up in the morning, you look in the mirror, you wash your face, you pull a $100 bill out of your purse, and you flush it down the toilet. That seems extreme, right? So why'd you do it this morning? And why are you going to do it tomorrow morning? And show her what she's doing, because she doesn't see it. And she's taking a bigger risk by procrastinating than she will be by pricing down to the market. Even below the market would be my suggestion, is price 10% below the market. Let's get more than one offer in here, and let's get some auction mentality going on.
Okay. I did talk to her about that as well, and she said, no. She was totally against doing that. And
yep.
Okay, so that's enough about that one. All right, so the next one I want to talk to you about is this lady's husband died 2 weeks ago, and maybe you're going to think I'm awful for doing this, but I went over and I talked to her, and her daughter was there. Her only daughter was there, and apparently there had been drama in the family. The husband who passed away wouldn't allow the wife to talk to her daughter for 20 years. So they were actually very happy to be back together. And it was like, okay, are they really mourning this guy or not? But that's not my job to do that. So anyway, to judge. So anyway, I sat down and gently talked to them about probate versus trust and what the steps were that they were going to take. And every objection she had, I successfully answered, because the last question that she stated was, she says, I'm very realistic about this. I'm 80 years old. She's very mentally capable, and she understands everything, so it's not like she's not. But anyway, she asked me, well, I can obviously see that my house needs to be updated, and my daughter, who was sitting right there, is not going to be, her daughter is 61. She said she's not going to be able to afford to make the improvements in order to get the most value out of the house. She said, so what can you do for me? And I said, that's not a problem. She said, what do you mean? I said, I have people that will do the work, will improve it, will get it on the market, and they'll get paid at settlement. And she looked at her daughter and she said, that's who I want you to sell the house. But she said, and this is where I got, I was like, yeah. So this is where I got hung up. She said, but Joy, what I really want to do is I want to live here for a year and just feel my way through things and then make a decision as to where I want to be. And I said, okay. So what would you have said to that? Because at that point,
I would have asked,
he just died 2 weeks ago. Her house is paid for. She said she doesn't have money issues. Her biggest concern is what's going to happen to the house when she passes, or in 1 year when she decides what she wants to do.
Do you think I knew about Drew's 18-month-old granddaughter because she told me willingly, or because I asked?
Well, I already asked about that. She doesn't have any grandchildren.
Well, it's an example of, so figuring out like where she is mentally will help you help her navigate it. Do you think that potentially her moving into a smaller square footage, much more affordable rental would make more sense than her being in this big house and paying for someone to take care of it?
I don't think she's going to. Well, her daughter told her, we did to have that discussion, and her daughter promises, I figure this is going to be a wait and see thing. Her daughter promises to come up every weekend to help her because she has a huge yard that has to be mowed. And she told me that what she has already decided to do is she'll go out every day and just mow a section until the whole yard gets mowed. And that's going to get old fast. And I talked to her this morning, and I asked her, well, you want to be careful, because I had another client who was doing something similar, and he got very sick from heat exhaustion. And so his family had to come in and sell his house and relocate him. She said, I'm not too worried about that because I don't plan on being out in the yard that long. And I said, but it's going to become more difficult for you to manage. She said, Joy, I just really want to wait 1 year. She said, I can afford the house. I don't have any money issues. We're secure here. And I know I want you to sell the house, but I just want to be here for 1 year. And she said, if I change my mind about that, you'll be the one I call.
So I do let off the gas on certain people. If I'm reading them and I feel like that they legitimately need time to process, and I've done this with surviving spouses, and I have come back 6 months later, you can say something like, listen, Joy, I understand how you feel. We've worked with a lot of folks that feel this way. I will say the biggest thing I'll caution you about is what I saw happen to other women in your situation is you are still processing this mentally, and you've told me that 1 year, you've got this belief that there's something in 1 year that makes you feel better. And I'm guessing that's arbitrary. Am I right? Like you think, like based on how you feel now, that's when it'll feel different, right? So what if it's not really about time, but it's more about just processing this? And what if we could show you a way to get the top value for your home today, which is very likely to go down within 1 year? We're almost guaranteed to see that go down because of the damage to the real estate is a lagging indicator to the broader economy. Looking at the damage that's done to the small business community and to job loss, it's very likely, and on the back end of the mortgage industry, it's very likely we're going to see a value correction to the downside in the next 12 months in almost every market. There are exceptions, but across the board, there's a lot of damage done from COVID. So what if we could, and I'm not going to pressure you, I'm not trying to close you, but I want you to at least sit with this evening and talk to your daughter about it, and we can talk again in the morning. What if we could have a more suitable place for you to live that's more comfortable than this and more affordable than this? You still don't have to sell for a year if you don't want to. We can come in, we can do the work, our contractors will do it, we'll carry the invoices. If you're not sure that you're going to want to sell at the end of that, we can set up an estate advance, or we can do a home equity line. And we can access the equity in the property to improve it, to maximize the value. But what if I could sell your home at absolute top dollar and you could get into a better environment that allowed you to focus on healing more than on maintaining a property? And that's what I want you to sit with. And let's talk in the morning. And I want her to sit and think about that, because the chances are we're creatures of habit, and habit is comfortable. Whether it's a good habit or a bad habit, it's comfortable, right? That's why addiction is so hard to break. It's a horrible habit, but it's comfortable because there's certainty in that. And she's probably just sitting in her certainty. She feels comfortable there, not so much because it's her home. She knows she wants to sell it. She's already made that mental decision. She's already said, I want you to sell this house. So that's why I'm nudging the way I am, because if she said, I don't know if I want to sell it, I'm just so overwhelmed, I don't know what to do, that's when I'm backing off. I'm giving her space. But when she says, I know what's in my best interest is to sell this asset, then let's get it done, because you're heading into a storm. Why not sell it while we're in smooth sailing, right? So really have her think about why she's doing this. Chances are she's doing it to get back into her comfort zone, whether that serves her or not. It's how we behave. And she might not close, and you'll get this listing a year from now. You're going to sell it for a lower price, I bet you, and she's going to have paid a year of carrying costs, and her and her daughter are going to have conflict because you were supposed to be up here last Saturday to mow the yard. I had to go out there and do it myself, and I'm going to have a heat stroke if you don't get up here next weekend. It's got to be done. And there will be friction, because it's hell, I've seen it in my own family. I've seen this stuff happen. So my advice would be nudge on her, have her contemplate why she's making the decision she's making, and if it's not based in logic, if it's based in emotion, help her process those emotions and move to a better place to live while you renovate the house and get it sold for top dollar.
Well, I think she's a pretty pragmatic person. At 80 years old, you're not going to believe this, at 80 years old, she works for an estate attorney.
That's awesome.
Yeah, at 80 years old, she's still working for this estate attorney. And when she tried to retire, she told me, I tried to retire, and she told me, no, we'll reduce your hours, but you can't quit. I was like, okay, this helps. Well, and that's actually helpful because anything that we've discussed, she goes back and vets with the attorney, and the attorney has confirmed everything that I've told her. Now, I do have a question.
Here's your reentry before we move on. Here's your reentry language. And what's her name?
Diane.
Diane. So just call back and say, Diane, listen, I talked to a mentor of mine yesterday or today, and it got me thinking, you're the kind of lady that just doesn't take no for an answer, or someone gave you a no and you saw the value in actually reconsidering your position, and you work part-time for that law firm still, right? So you told me no, but I'm asking you to reconsider your position because I think it is in your best interest. Just like working, would you agree that having something to do at least 2 or 3 days a week is healthy for you? Right. So just like the attorney that asked you to reconsider and stick with the firm, I'm going to ask you to reconsider and just like you told me you want me to sell the home. So I'm going to ask you to reconsider and think about the reasons you don't want to right now at this moment. And go that route, like use that personal identifier with her, like associate yourself with her so she becomes empathetic to your position and critical of her own. And you can create that kind of shift and turn the table on her and use her own story to help her identify with the position she's put you in. You feel like you can do what's in her best interest and it's highly beneficial to her. She doesn't quite see it from your perspective right now. So flip the table and have her sit in your seat for a second by using her own story to change the position.
Well, do you think I should wait till her daughter comes back? Because I talked to her earlier today too, and
yes,
her daughter's supposed to be coming tomorrow.
Stop by a bakery, pick up some pastries or homemade pie or something. And just go over and sit down. I made her blueberry
muffins. She likes my blueberry muffins.
Even better.
When I went over the first time. So she's like, these are so good. And I was like, well, let's have some coffee and blueberry muffins and talk. And that's how I got as much information out of her as I did. So, but she told me earlier today that her daughter is coming tomorrow. So I was thinking that time-wise it might be smart to do that conversation when her daughter's there, so we're all on the same page. Because I mean, that worked out very well the last time. So, okay, I do have one last question. I heard.
Well, Joy, I hate to do this. I'm gonna try to be done in 2 minutes, and I do want to get to the last caller. If you want to jump on Bruce's calendar, he can help you with that one.
Okay.
Sorry, we're half an hour over.
Okay, that's true. Okay, thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks, Joy.
Last but not least, we have phone number ending in 8230. Thank you for your patience. You're live. 8230. Well, Joy, I may have cut you off.
Can you hear me? I'm sorry. I
there you are.
Yes. Thank you. I heard somebody say, the other gentleman say something about LP Mama. And it sounded like an acronym, and I was just wondering what the LP Mama stood for, because I didn't hear it in his description.
Oh, man, it's just a buyer's script.
It's Hank Hill's wife, right? LP is propane? Propane Mama?
So it's on an inbound buyer call. It stands for location, price, motivation, agent, mortgage, appointment. So it's just kind of a diagram if you lose yourself in a conversation.
Great. Thank you very much. That's it. Keep it short and sweet. You got a minute back.
All right. Well, guys, we finished right at 2, right just on a half an hour over, but it was too good of a conversation to cut short. We did get everybody in the queue. I'm going to try to close as Jim always does. I want you to take one thing you heard here today, one idea, one nugget of inspiration. Go out there, put it into action, and come back next week to tell us your success story. Thanks so much for being here and being a part of this, guys. Make it a great day.